Greetings from Scouse Farm on a wet day. But you've heard me before, if you've watched the channel, you can't trust this weather app. When it tells you it's going to be dry, it's wet. So it's kind of like the news that tells you one thing, do the opposite. But I'm here in West Derby Village, which today is wet Derby Village. But we shall persevere. A little bit of rain won't hurt. And I'm at the War Memorial on the corner. It was recently Remembrance Sunday last weekend, so there's still some poppies laid there in front of the War Memorial to the village. And this is one of the later additions, obviously, being war memorials in the UK. There's always been a few, but they grew in number after the First World War, the Great War of 1914 to 1918. So you see quite a lot of these in villages in the UK for those watchers overseas. I'm sure you've got your own versions, but there are a lot of these in old villages. And the reason I'm doing West Derby Village is because, one, there's a lot of history to West Derby Village, because West Derby was actually here before the city of Liverpool, which I didn't know. As West Derby was far more important than Liverpool, because number one, it was here before Liverpool even existed, and number two, it was basically the administrative centre for northwest England, or at least most of northwest England, around where we are now in what was Lancashire and is now Merseyside. And you can see this beautiful lodge house leading up to Croxteth Hall, and this is the entrance to what was the Earl of Sefton's residence, and you can see that long sweeping road going all the way up. And if you've not seen Croxteth Hall, built in 1575, or at least the first bits of it were, then there is a video on my channel, so have a look. I'll leave an if I've done it right, I'll leave something up in the top here somewhere, and you'll be able to have a little click on that once you've watched this one. But obviously, please watch this one first. And this is Croxteth Hall gates, and you can see either side we've got the lions, and they're supposed to be flags. Oh yeah, there they are, they're in black. Let's go in a bit closer. You can see we've got some lions looking inward, holding on to the flag there, and that flag is the Molyneux family flag, which were the Earls of Sefton, who run this estate and owned a lot of the land in this area, which is now called West Derby. And the history is fascinating, because upon the Norman conquest of 1066, you know, for those who went to school in the UK, I think history teaches about the Battle of Hastings in 1066. Well, William the Conqueror, upon victory, give land all across the country to his more favoured knights, and West Derby was given to William de Moulin, like the film Moulin Rouge. So William de Moulin, that name then morphed into Molyneux, and the Molyneux are the family who run West Derby and most of the area around here. And that was in 1066. So Liverpool as a city didn't even exist until I think 1207, when King John gave it a royal charter of some description to make it a city, and it was only 7 streets. So Liverpool only had 7 streets, and it was laid out in like a loose H formation. So the letter H, there was 7 streets, and that was Liverpool. But West Derby was the main administrative centre for the northwest. And a little bit of nature there for you. We've got some Verbena bonariensis there, the purple flowers on this patch. So that's for the Scouse Farm gardening fans. And there's something going on, I don't know what. It's early morning, or relatively early morning, but there's a lot of people dotted around, so I'll try and keep the faces out of it. But I think there's some sort of function going on in a cafe. And I'm going to take you over to a monument now. This is the fountain, and this was free basically. So it was a free stop off where you could get some water, and it was a gift, or it was paid for by Richard Mead King, who was a local prominent merchant and politician who lived in Sandfield Park, which isn't far away from here. And I think that was 1894, But I will leave a link down below to all the history of West Derby, so you can have yourselves a look in the link. And I think it's on there, the gift of Richard. And without getting run over, I'll just take you around to show you the fountain. That wasn't there in 1894, but we live in a scruffy world now, where people just leave crap everywhere. And where's the sign? Yeah, there it is. That's what I wanted to show you. It says water is best. And this was at the height of the temperance movement in the UK. And the temperance movement was to try and get people to abstain from drinking alcohol and to just drink water instead and be healthy. Because there were apparently 11 inns and taverns in little old West Derby back in the day. But as you can see now, from that massive pub, it didn't work. And I want to take you to this monument that's unfortunately been shielded by some fencing. But this is the statue under canopy of Christ. And this was paid for by the wife of a banker, a local banker from Norris Green. And that depicts Christ under the canopy there. And somewhere else on this, if I can get close enough, it's supposed to signify the fall of Adam and Eve. Obviously a monument to Christ himself, the resurrection, and the four evangelists, Matthew, Mark, Luke and John. And this was put up in 1894, and it was funded by, was it 1894? Let me have a little check. Don't want to tell you the wrong information. No, the fountain was 1894, and this was, I've got some notes here that are wet, and this was put up, well, I think it's around the same time, because it doesn't say an actual date. But the person who paid for it was Mrs. Pemberton Haywood, and it was designed by Eden Nesfield. So I imagine Eden Nesfield was a prominent architect or designer at the time. I can't get any closer to this and I'll probably get ran over by a bus, but I want to spin you around now. And this, for the historians amongst you, is the only freestanding courthouse left in the UK that was built and ordered by Queen Elizabeth I. So that's like the late 1500s, 1587 or something or other. But I'll leave the link down below so you can see when it was actually built. It doesn't look much as a building now, but this was the local courthouse which run the estate of the Molyneux family. So all of the copy holders, as they were known at the time, they're the people who were given land to run the Molyneux estates. So they would have to go here every year and place a copy of their lease in a secure box, and every year they had to show that they were keeping their property in good condition, and they were doing what they were supposed to do, basically, which was manage the estates. And that's like a relic of the feudal system, whereby if you were a peasant or anyone other than a landed gentry, you couldn't own any property. So you basically had to work on the land to live on the land. And I think that went out of fashion in about 1925 or something, when new laws come in, and then we moved to leasehold and other forms of freehold. But that courthouse is open between April and October each year, so if you want to go in, it's free to go in, and you can see all of the old Tudor furniture and some of the things that are in there. And that courthouse was where people were sentenced to serve minor punishments, and that will lead me nicely on to what I'm about to show you now. I didn't think it'd be this busy in the morning, but there's no time to come to West Derby that it's not busy. But this is hilarious to me. But these are stocks, these are actual stocks, and they were next to the courthouse. So you'd be punished in the courthouse and then put in the stocks. But they were moved into this area, which is next to the yeoman's house, which I'll show you next. And this was called the pinfold. And a pinfold was just a little area in the village where if any of your animals got loose, they were brought here. So it's like a modern day car impound, and then you'd have to pay to get them released. So if one of your pigs broke loose and went on a rampage, they'd just end up in here. It'd get rustled up, stuffed in here, and then you'd have to pay to get it released because it was your fault for letting the pig go anyway. But I'll just see if you can zoom in on this. I'll reach over, and this is a plaque, and it was, these stocks were moved here, and I think they got this all prepared in 1901 because it was to be in place for the coronation of King Edward VII, which was August 1902, if I remember correctly. And it was also to commemorate the passing of Queen Victoria, so it was like a double bubble to commemorate Queen Victoria's death and then celebrate the ascension to the throne of her son Edward VII. And these stocks, you'd be put in them for things such as this sounds daft, but allowing a pig to go around with no nose ring. So if your pig didn't have a ring through its nose, then that was a crime, and you could spend up to 6 hours in the stocks. And you'd have your legs stuck through, and apparently these could fit 3 people in at one time. So your legs get trapped and you're held in there for 6 hours, and then anyone walking past would be able to throw like rotten vegetables and fruit at you, call your names and throw horse poo at you and stuff like that, which is quite hilarious and ridiculous at the same time. But you could also be sent into the stocks for not going to church on a Sunday. And even if you weren't like Anglican faith or whatever it is, denomination, and you were a Catholic, so to speak, and you didn't go to church, you would be put in these stocks for up to 6 hours. So basically everybody went to church, whether they liked it or not. And speaking of the yeoman's house, this again dates back to the late 1500s, which is staggering. And the yeoman is the official who runs the Earl's estates. So this is more like a modern day civil service. So you have to put everything in place to make sure that everything runs smoothly, because we are standing in West Derby, which used to be a forested area. And as you'll know if you've seen the Croxteth Hall video, a lot of this was built or put in place to do hunting. So there was deer and birds and everything else that the landed gentry like to hunt. So all of that needed managed, and this was the yeoman's house where they administered all of that. And being so close to the entrance to Croxteth Park, it makes perfect sense. And I'm going to walk you around now. You can see there's loads of people there, so I just don't want to go over that way. Too many people. I'm going to walk you down this little tight lane now, and then we'll be able to see the church. And the Church of St Mary's is basically the centre of the village. In 1856, upon return from the Crimean War, then the 4th Earl, William, I believe, was looking around and thought, well, you know what, I'm gonna make this a very, very smart place to live for me and the family. So we're gonna build a village around. It's a nice house, isn't it? This is up for sale, actually. Sorry to divert, but yeah, he wanted the village to be built around the St Mary's Church and make a few changes, knock a few things down, and then lay down his roots and make this the centre of his little empire, so to speak. But yeah, that's up for sale if you want to buy it. And I'll try and, there's someone dottering around outside the church, so I think there's something going on in the church as well. I'm just going past the school now, but this looks like it's been there a long time. Quite scary and gothic, not ideal. Get rid of that. But yeah, the village was all built around this wonderful church that you're about to see the tower of now when I pop round. This is a tight lane, like a surprise cars can even park here. But wait till you see this, see if I can get a good look. But look at the size of that tower, and you can imagine how visible that would be when you're in the area or even far away from the area walking around, so you'll know which way to travel. And we've got a new addition here on the side called the St Mary's Millennium Centre, which looks like some sort of community place. But the actual church, which you'll get to see now, oh look at that, production value. Wow, perfect timing. Now you got to hear the bells as well. Just wait for Quasimodo to go hanging out the top there. But look at that, what a beautiful building. And this was commissioned by the third Earl, and the foundation stone was laid by the third Earl. His name, I think, was Charles, the third Earl of Sefton, but he passed away in 1855, so we didn't get to see this opened. You would have probably seen, obviously, the start of the build, but it was the fourth Earl, William, who got lucky, and he was the one who was on the throne to be here for the grand opening. Well, I think I'm going to leave you there. So thank you very much for watching. Please like the video if you liked it, and subscribe to the channel if you're new. And Scouse Farm. We'll see you all again soon.